it's not liberal to allow biological males to compete against biological females in sports because you're being kind.
California Governor Gavin Newsom said that he thinks that trans athletes competing in girls' and women's sports was deeply unfair.
You're just enabling mental illness, the potential for creeps to make their way into women's locker rooms.
The problem that trans community is facing is if you don't know anything about our bodies, you don't know how it works.
How ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists, but they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
Joe Biden knows how to do this. Yes. He knows how to do this. He's quite good at this.
Joe Rogan and Karoline Leavitt tearing into Whoopi Goldberg is the kind of cultural clash that practically writes itself because it pits two people who thrive on blunt honesty against someone who's coasted for decades on the fumes of long-past accolades. Whoopi Goldberg represents one of those rare Hollywood cases where the myth of her career has somehow grown far larger than her actual contributions in recent memory, leaving a gap that's almost too easy for sharp critics to expose.
Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said? Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail.
Let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has that. He has all those rights. He is immune from everything. You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president? Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said this
on television. The fact that she says that so confidently, if you're willing to let Donald Trump use presidential immunity, that means Joe Biden could just go crazy and arrest all the Republicans because that's what that means. No, that's not what that means. Even a little bit. Like
No,
you just
not at
added a
all.
whole bunch of stuff to what that means.
On The View.
I had something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here. Oh, yeah. Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House.
If you're enjoying this video, please make sure to subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon. She has an EGOT, sure, and nobody denies she once mattered in Hollywood, but that was then. The Whoopi Goldberg of today is a daytime talk show scold who spends her time lecturing viewers about politics she doesn't fully understand, handing out hot takes that sound more like reheated leftovers from Twitter than anything resembling original thought. It's the perfect setup for Rogan's sharp dissection and Leavitt's no-nonsense dismantling.
But it's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch them.
It's good entertainment.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Well, they're just, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
That's sort of, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart, but captured.
Joe Rogan approaches Whoopi the way he approaches most sacred cows of entertainment, with the blunt realization that her relevance exists almost entirely because the media props her up. He points out the obvious. This is a woman who peaked in the 90s, a comedian and actress who once made her name by being genuinely funny and unpredictable, but who's now reduced to daytime moralizing on The View, one of the most notoriously toxic panels in television history. It's almost tragic when you think about it. A once fearless performer is now fearful of straying from the script that keeps her employed. She doesn't challenge power anymore. She protects it.
No way to gauge whether or not someone's really trans.
Have you seen female athletes? They know what they're doing.
So you have perverts that are wandering around women's locker rooms, and that's real.
These are men
Competing
against women. You're assuming that the women are weak and just can't do anything.
If you say something against them, you're a Nazi.
And the challenge is not to the trans people, it's to the people who are not trans. That's what God is looking to see, how you treat people.
So it's through the looking glass, completely.
Karoline Leavitt, on the other hand, zeroes in on the hypocrisy. Whoopi loves to present herself as a defender of women, of minorities, of truth itself, yet time and again she's caught saying things that contradict her own supposed values. One day she's playing the role of cultural sage, the next day she's backpedaling on a controversial statement about history so poorly thought out it borders on parody. Leavitt doesn't let that slide. She frames Whoopi as the ultimate example of Hollywood privilege, a woman insulated by wealth, status, and industry friends, but still pretending to speak for the average American.
Conspiracy theories about assassination attempts, but I guess that's too much to ask from The View.
I mean, I gotta ask you, because they said it, are you aware of any plots from Elon Musk to push President Trump down the stairs?
Absolutely not. Let me be unequivocally clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic.
Rogan laughs at the absurdity of it all. Whoopi sits on The View every morning, acting like she's leading some intellectual salon when, in reality, it's 4 celebrities yelling over each other while selling a daytime version of tribal warfare to bored housewives and retirees. He mocks the fact that Whoopi, who once stood up as a bold voice in comedy, now looks visibly exhausted half the time, squinting through cue cards like she's counting the minutes until she can cash her check and head home. It's not cutting-edge entertainment. It's cultural stagnation in designer clothes.
I saw you on The View.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been overwhelming my past couple days.
Yeah, is that annoying?
No.
No?
No. I mean, it's just, when I was on there, I really had no idea how it was going to land with the audience. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way and attack my character in that way.
Leavitt adds the political hammer. She points out how Whoopi constantly positions herself as morally superior, yet aligns with whatever narrative keeps her Hollywood peers clapping. When crime surges, Whoopi blames vague forces instead of failed leadership. When political figures she likes make mistakes, she shields them. But when it's someone outside her ideological bubble, she unloads with sanctimony. It's not conviction, it's convenience.
They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up. They just paid $15 million to President Trump's future library. That's a great thing for the American people.
Rogan then drills into her career trajectory. Whoopi is supposed to be a comedian, but when was the last time she was funny? Comedy is supposed to punch up, to make audiences laugh at truths they hadn't considered. But Whoopi's comedy days are gone, buried under layers of political self-seriousness. Instead of laughs, she offers lectures. Instead of wit, she offers weariness. Rogan skewers this perfectly, painting her as a relic of Hollywood's past who refuses to accept that time moved on. She doesn't. She sits on a panel with millionaires who complain about problems most people would trade their lives for in an instant. The disconnect is so glaring that it's almost insulting, and Leavitt calls it what it is: performative activism wrapped in expensive clothing. Rogan savages the absurdity of Whoopi's hot takes. From bizarre historical claims to tone-deaf defenses of Hollywood's worst behavior, he highlights how she gets away with blunders simply because her peers are too afraid to criticize her.
Introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you.
So here's the actual appearance. Watch.
Donald Trump is a billionaire, a real estate mogul, and a television star.
In any other job, saying the things Whoopi has said would get you fired. On The View, it just gets you a round of applause and a gentle walk back the next day. The double standard is glaring, and Rogan relishes exposing it. Leavitt paints the bigger picture. Whoopi Goldberg isn't just an individual failure, she's a symptom of a cultural rot where washed-up celebrities cling to political outrage as their last lifeline of relevance. He compares her attempts at wisdom to listening to your cranky aunt rant after one too many glasses of boxed wine at Thanksgiving. It's not insightful, it's embarrassing. Whoopi talks as if she's laying down historical truths, but most of the time it's factually shaky, emotionally overwrought, or just plain wrong. The audience claps anyway because they're trained to. It's the Pavlovian response of daytime television. Cue the applause sign, cue the cheer, reward the host for saying something that sounds important, even if it collapses under the weight of the slightest fact check.
Whoopi
Loved you. Gives you a hug and a kiss.
She writes a letter, the most beautiful letter. She's quoted in the paper. He's a consequential, he was the greatest president, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden she goes to The View. She started hitting the hell out of me because they won't hire her unless. I've had many people go on CNN and they called and said, I don't know what to do. They want to pay me a lot, but I have to be negative on you. I said, be negative, that's okay.
Leavitt underscores the tragedy of it all. Here's a woman who broke barriers in comedy and film, who had a chance to leave a legacy of daring artistry, yet chose to waste her later years yelling at daytime TV cameras. Instead of being remembered as an innovator, she's remembered as a scolder. Instead of being the bold entertainer who turned Hollywood upside down, she's now the person who interrupts any spark of conversation with lectures that sound like Wikipedia entries written in crayon. It's almost Shakespearean, the fall from grace. Whoopi was once magnetic, a performer who could hold a room with razor-sharp humor and fearless honesty. But somewhere along the way, that charisma calcified into crankiness. Who know the audience isn't looking for truth, they're looking for the comfort of clapping at the right lines. Leavitt points out that the saddest part is not that Whoopi is wrong so often, but that she no longer seems to care. She doesn't wrestle with ideas, she doesn't test her own beliefs, she doesn't sharpen her perspective against the grindstone of debate.
Yes, I absolutely will. I feel prepared to do that. I've been facing the media now, speaking on behalf of President Trump on the campaign trail for the past couple of years, and we are expecting the media to be hostile. However, Kaylee, if you do talk to a lot of these reporters off the record, they will tell you they look forward to more press transparency and access. And while we will expose the fake news when they are fake, we will hold them accountable for their lies and smears of President Trump.
She just repeats and rants as if volume and longevity will substitute for relevance. And in the process, the legacy she could have cemented, the daring pioneer, the fearless comic voice, the Oscar-winning actress who defied Hollywood's narrow categories, is steadily being eroded by the daily grind of self-righteous monologues that land with the subtlety of a dropped anvil. Imagine future generations trying to piece together her career. They'll see the landmark moments, the one-woman show that dazzled audiences, the film performances that earned her critical acclaim, the awards that marked her as an undeniable talent. Instead of remembering a boundary breaker, they'll see a hall monitor of culture, wagging her finger at the world as if everyone else is in detention. The irony is almost cruel. Here is a woman who once brought joy, laughter, and biting insight to millions, now reduced to playing the role of an authority figure no one asked for.
Well, their audience is not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, but a lot of them are paid. They're paid to be there. So, because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire. And when a show gets really, really popular, you know, like Letterman or something like that, obviously it has its own fan base.
Right.
And those people will try to get tickets before anybody else does. And in that case, they probably don't need to use a service anymore. They just get actual fans. But arguably, like, the fans, the real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point, most of those people can't leave the house.
She talks about history as if she lived it firsthand, yet gets the details wrong. She delivers moral lessons with the tone of a scolding teacher, yet often undercuts her own arguments with contradictions so glaring you'd think the audience would notice. But they don't, because they've been trained not to. They clap on cue, nod along, and let the illusion of wisdom float by unchallenged. Leavitt captures it perfectly. Whoopi has squandered what could have been an unassailable place in cultural history. She had every ingredient to be remembered as a trailblazer, someone who broke barriers in comedy and film and then gracefully transitioned into a respected elder stateswoman of entertainment, canned outrage, and the unearned authority of a daytime platform. Rather than pushing boundaries, she traded curiosity for comfort. Authority without substance always collapses, and Whoopi's career arc is proof. What could have ended in reverence now risks ending in ridicule, remembered less for her artistry than for her lectures. It's not tragedy in the classical sense, but it is the kind of wasted potential that stings.
It's just us. Okay.
Well, I really would love to answer this question, but upon driving over here from the White House, I actually learned that I have been sued by the Associated Press.
Oh, that means, okay, we cannot. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, personally?
We'll see them in court.
Wait a second. Personally?
Yes. Yes.
See, this is what these people do. It's called lawfare. You can't say it. I'll say it. It's called lawfare, people. That means I'll probably get sued in the next 30 minutes or so. Okay, keep going.
So I wanted to get the White House counsel on the phone before taking this stage to see what I can and cannot say.
I really can't say anything.
But look, we feel we are in the right in this position, and I said in my first briefing at the podium, we are going to ensure that truth and accuracy is present at that White House every single day.
And that's the tragedy. The audience may still clap, but it's hollow applause, the sound of people who know they're supposed to cheer but don't feel the spark. Whoopi once earned laughter through brilliance. Now she demands it through habit. The result is a career that once soared, now limping toward its conclusion, not with the thunder of an innovator, but with the weary sigh of someone who mistook scolding for significance. The arc of Whoopi Goldberg's career is a cautionary tale. Talent doesn't guarantee relevance, and fame doesn't guarantee wisdom. Whoopi Goldberg isn't the fearless trailblazer she once was. She's a tired performer trapped in the echo chamber of daytime television, clinging to relevance through outrage and applause lines. Rogan exposes her as a comedian who forgot how to be funny. Leavitt exposes her as an activist who forgot what activism actually means. And together, they reveal what Whoopi Goldberg has become. A relic, not a rebel. A brand name without substance. A fading echo of a career that once mattered, but now survives only on the pity of an industry too polite to admit she's irrelevant. And that's the final punchline. Whoopi Goldberg, a woman who once thrived on laughter, has become the joke herself.